was just talking to...
I quite like Craig feeling under pressure.
Yeah. So Craig has been the smuggest... smuggest man on earth in the office this week. He had absolutely zero fear, completely fearless over the season. He's just sat there with his...
almost he's going, yeah, we've pretty much won it.
Pretty much from about October, isn't he?
Yeah. Why is it that some people are allowed to tempt the football gods and get away with it?
Get everything they want?
Yeah.
I don't know. It isn't fair. It's not fair because the minute I did it last year where I said, yeah, Spurs can win the league, the footballing gods got me. And kindly, it's kind of happening with Huddersfield as well.
I've had that, yeah. Because I've gone, no. And then I've gone, maybe. And then you lose.
Yeah.
And then you go, yeah, actually, what was I thinking? We're definitely not going up. And then you go on a run and you beat Brighton and Leeds back to back and you start to go, but we're playing so well, maybe. And then they just give you a little...
So this is the problem I've got right now because I see 7 points between Tottenham and Chelsea and I don't see that as insurmountable. In fact, 2 out of the last 5 seasons have seen a 7-point 7-point gap be overcome.
That's the thing, isn't it? Is that when it gets to the sharp end of anything, and it matters more, it makes it different. It's like if you're taking a penalty, right, and all of a sudden, like footballers can put it wherever they want. You know, they're professional footballers. It's what they do. They can put it wherever they want. However, you put a big wall of crowd around them, the TV cameras, and know that you've got to score in order for your nation to think you're all right and you go through to the next round.
Yeah.
It all of a sudden makes it very difficult.
Yeah, of course.
It's like first tee pressure at a golf.
Yeah.
Fucking, I hate first tee pressure. I'm not a big golfer, but I've played and I can hit a ball. And there's a couple of times when you're at a golf course, you're standing there and there's all these people around, and you're just like, fuck it. And I'm just like, swung and missed a ball.
The thing is that everything you're concerned about makes you fuck up. It makes you do that badly. It's a horrible situation.
That's the difference between winners and losers.
You can block it out.
Yeah, and I guess ultimately. That's why sometimes teams falter and people lose form, and it's the ability probably of the manager to get them feeling comfortable and that whole one game at a time. So rather than thinking about what's at stake, it's just focus on doing what you play that 90 minutes, that 45 minutes, do that. So if Chelsea have another little wobble, then could happen, mate. I don't want to draw you in.
Well, I'm in kind of because I was talking to Craig just when we were setting up and he was. I was like, well, you got Man City, and on their day they can beat you, and we got Swansea, and on our day we should be able to walk over Swansea. So it could be down to 4 points, and if we beat them, we're gonna have a better goal difference than they will have. So it's actually 3 plus goal difference.
Would you rather be
if we win? But we're going to lose to Swansea now. That's just how it goes.
Would you feel more comfortable right now if your positions, points, and everything and fixtures were switched?
Yeah.
Would you rather be in their position?
Much rather, yeah.
So would you rather be the hunted than the hunter?
Well, look, we'll say that, right? We're no Spurs fans looking at this and thinking, yeah, we're going to do it 100%. Only the most optimistic and kind of deluded are kind of going, yeah, we're definitely going to do this. So most Spurs fans are already in a mindset that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if it does, it's going to be unbelievable, and that feeling's better. Overcoming that mountain is better than being on top of it. Yeah. And so
I hope you do. Who's got the? You don't have to play them again, do you?
We've got harder fixtures. We've got to play Arsenal and Man United still.
Right.
They've after Man City pretty much got a free run to the league title.
Oh really?
I think so. But this is what Craig was saying: the psychology of losing 2 on the bounce when you're top of the league. That isn't the same thing by missing penalties.
Yeah.
It has that same effect.
Yeah. So is Craig all of a sudden, having been Mr. Confident, is he shaken?
He's now becoming. So do you think you can win the league? He's like now
a noticeable change.
Yeah, and he's become a nicer person for it.
In fact, somebody was. It's nice we're talking about Chelsea in a way because somebody was hitting us up on the pod questions.
Yeah,
and they were almost complaining. They were almost complaining that we. Like, God, why aren't you talking about Chelsea kind of vibe?
But everyone's talking about Chelsea.
Yeah, I know, that's what I was like. Seriously?
I mean, just quickly, Chelsea, in my opinion, although we've managed to claw it back slightly, they've almost been untouchable all year.
In fact, the football gods got this guy.
Right. What
The
did he
football
say?
gods got him.
What did he say?
They got him. Fucking love it, mate. You tempted. I'm
What's
trying to
his
find him now. I'm trying to find him. You just film for a second.
So they've been almost untouchable since they lost to Arsenal 3-0 very early on in the season. They've just been superb. They went on that 13-game running streak of wins. Spurs beat them and then they just bounced back.
Yeah.
By and large, been unattainable.
They have until Michael Schooner made the fools, made the ridiculous mistake of tempting the football gods and saying, considering they are storming the league, I feel that Chelsea should be talked about more. They have been incredible with a team that looked last year dreadful. I understand that in this pod we had a short talk about them. I think you should have an in-depth look at how they've managed to turn this around.
I mean,
hope you see this. Love the podcast. Keep up the good stuff. So we like him.
Bless you. But the
tempted fate.
He has tempted fate, and he's been punished for it. And he doesn't even sound like a Chelsea fan. So I think
he is.
I think the problem is, mate, is that no one likes Chelsea. And no one likes watching content about Chelsea unless they're a Chelsea fan. No. So I'm not going to spend too much time. I don't like talking about them. I wish they didn't even exist.
No, and I don't even somebody even had some comment to us as well last week, and he's got, God, do you even watch like the Premier League? And I was like, no. Actually, unashamedly, I don't. I watch the odd bit, but I've got, you know what I mean. I've got better things to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I couldn't sit down and break them down. But I do think that last year they weren't actually that bad. It was more a case of they got affected by this off the field stuff.
Yeah.
They got caught up in a lot of different
things.
Of stuff. Hazard's form just completely disappeared. And now he looks. I mean, in the Euros he looked good again, right? I remember him just carrying the ball, looking fucking dangerous for Belgium.
Also, I think a lot of other managers have benefited from lending tactics off of Conte. They've seen how effective his 3-4-3 has been in the Premier League, and Pochettino especially has adapted very quickly and said, right, we were having problems when Watford played free at the back last season. Yeah. We had problems against them. When West Ham played free at the back last season, we had problems against them. So I think he's understood that tactic seemingly with the way football is at the moment is probably the most effective way to play football.
But I also think that just as a guy like Conte, I remember him as a player for Juve, and he looked cool. He looked like the kind of guy. He just looked like he was almost playing with a fag in his mouth, you know. And he's got that kind of gangster, kind of Godfather vibe to him, hasn't he? Could you imagine, you know, playing badly and going into the dressing room? So you would be. Yeah. You'd be sleeping with the fishes.
Is there any managers you don't like for any reason? Actually for seemingly no reason?
Any managers I don't like for any reason.
So I'll give you an example for me. I've got really an issue for some reason with Klopp, which I've made clear.
Yeah, you hate Klopp, don't you?
I really don't like him, and now Pep Guardiola. And I think it's about expressive. Managers that become overly expressive, I find that irritating in a human being.
When they become overly expressive?
Yeah, they enunciate and they're like...
Well, I do that.
No.
I'm like, my fucking hands are out.
Yeah, but you're... All right, then that's... Yeah, it's about facial expression then.
But I do that.
Klopp just gets so visibly angry or so visibly excited. It just... I don't know. It's just maybe it's something in me as a. Yeah. I find it.
I love Klopp.
Pep does as well.
I love Klopp primarily because I love Wagner Wagner, whatever you want to call him, and they're best mates, and Wagner was best man at his wedding, so that makes me by proxy a Klopp fan.
Yeah, fair enough.
Pep thing though, because I quite like it. You know, I'm a little bit anti-establishment. I'm a bit underdog. So if there's someone that's winning and it gets a bit boring for me, I like to then see him kind of lose. So given that Pep for a while was walking around Europe like, I've got it made, I'm the guy, and everyone's just like literally, oh, you're so amazing. Yeah. I quite like that it's been a bit difficult for him.
Absolutely.
And that he's been visibly uncomfortable.
I mean, any decent manager should be able to go to a top club like City with the riches they have and do well. Yeah. And he's underperformed. And, you know, he did amazing at Barcelona, he did amazing at Bayern Munich, but this is the Premier League and seemingly it's a lot harder.
I love Mourinho. What was that one he did the other week? Yeah, that's the one where I think he'd played at Chelsea, and obviously the crowd was singing Mourinho's a wanker or whatever the chant was. and he's giving it the old, pointing to the pitch and giving it 3 or whatever. And then afterwards, he says, they were calling him Judas, weren't they?
Yeah, or something like that.
They were calling him Judas and a few sort of bits and pieces, and he gives it, and obviously I'm paraphrasing, but basically in his quote afterwards, he said, I won 3 titles here, and until you get a manager that gets more than 3 titles, then Judas is number 1.
Yeah.
And he's just like fucking, his lyrics when he's great.
This is why I like Mourinho, though, because he's not as expressive, and he kind of gets the job done, and I quite like the fact that lots of people hate him. I like that. I like that he just doesn't care. He seems to troll the football world and not give a shit about it, and there's something in that.
There definitely is.
All right, talking about controversy at the weekend, we thought it was this was maybe the best platform, or one of the most suitable platforms to talk about what happened at Arsenal Fan TV.
Oh yeah.
And also the a general situation at Arsenal, because all of it's linked.
Yeah.
I think the first thing, where would you like to start with it actually, Matt? Do you have any ideas, or shall I just crack on?
It's very tough. I mean, I think let's start actually. No, let's start with Arsenal, but before we talk about that, let's just put in a few disclaimers.
Yeah.
Because if there's anything that I've noticed, is if you talk about Arsenal, it's a very sensitive fan base. It's a very sensitive fan base.
They are quite sensitive.
And it's a situation at the club, and I've been there as a Huddersfield fan when you get half the fan base or a proportion that's kind of adamant about a manager going, and then you tend to get some people that are loyal almost to a fault, whereby they're incapable to see critical thinking, and that creates a friction. Yeah. So it's a very delicate situation. So we're kind of tiptoeing into these eggshells, slightly nervous because you're a Spurs fan, so it's difficult for you. But I'm neutral. I don't care. So all I'm giving you is my perspective from where we're standing. Yeah. So if you're an Arsenal fan, just relax. If you're incapable of critical commentary or thoughts, just turn off. It's not for you.
Well, I wanted to talk about it not as a biased Spurs fan for once.
Yes.
I actually want to look at it and try and understand what's going on to some degree. And I mean, we'll start with the fact that the football club and what's happening on the football pitch. Wenger we're currently in a situation where they've managed to come from behind twice against Manchester City. 2 goals, 1-0 down, 1-1. 2 goals down till. Firstly, that requires some level of character and some resilience, but also it requires luck, and it could have been that, but they were kind of well worked goals to some degree. Walcott benefited from some luck because it kind of bounced off, and you got an opportunity to poke it in the corner. It was a good finish, and Mustafi's header was a good header. It could have been defended a little bit better, but they got their goals. But what was very strange, and what showed me that there was something not right behind the scenes, because as football fans, you don't know what's going on. You have no idea.
Of course.
But the lack of celebration, the lack of togetherness in that team, specifically when Walcott scored that first goal, because Koscielny was 5 yards and just wheeled away and started walking back towards the centre circle, and that showed me that while there has been many times people calling for Wenger to go, that this time there's something wrong inside the football club.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't see this game, right? I didn't. I was out with Vader and Ty and Nan, so I didn't see it, right? But I did tune in because I was interested in the result, because I was aware that Arsenal's an interesting thing. I don't think you can sit here and go, oh, look at his body language, it means that. Like, I think it's kind of. It's almost like it's kind of confirmation bias, though, isn't it? I think you're almost like looking for it, thinking, oh, are they divided, and therefore you interpret things according to what you're looking for in a way.
Yeah.
Which is a whole different layer of psychology, but I don't think that you can look at that and go, that's what that means. And I also think that you can't look at this at a 90 minutes. I think that if you actually stand back and you look at Arsenal, it's been this way for fucking maybe about 4 years, right? Whereby they're losing a bit and everyone's Wenger out, and then a few things happen that kind of that mask actually how people feel. They get an FA Cup win,
yeah,
you know, and all of a sudden then it's like, oh, actually, yeah, and next year maybe kind of will be challenging for the title again, and then next year they have a great opportunity, and then they have a little run, and everyone's like, actually, Wenger out, and then they kind of turn it around and do it well again.
Yeah.
So this has been on and off. It's been on and off constantly over a period of years.
Yeah.
And I feel that there's sometimes it just becomes time, doesn't it? Whereby, regardless of what's right or wrong, something needs to happen.
Yeah.
Something needs to happen, because it feels like it's just hung over the club. Just from where I'm standing, like it's just hung over the club for such a long time now, whereby they've not acted.
I think that's it. There's one thing that I do. I mean, I flip back and forth. One minute I think that's crazy. You know, it's crazy that they're protesting. They're actual real protests, given the fact that they've been consistently good, if not brilliant.
Yes.
It's consistently brilliant. And you're talking about top 4 clubs in the entire country.
Yeah.
In all of England, they're in the top 4 clubs.
Yeah. And
but then
there's a hell of a lot of money in the Premier League. Yeah. There's a hell of a lot of teams that are trying shit to get to the top.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's,
I understand.
There's Liverpool, Spurs, there's Man United, there's Arsenal, there's City, there's Chelsea. To be consistently finishing in that top 4 is actually a massive achievement.
Massive. It's huge. It's will probably never be replicated again.
Probably not, yeah.
Maybe not. Certainly because of the...
Because everyone else has dropped out, haven't they? Arsenal probably the only one that's stayed
in.
Yeah,
they are. Yeah, likewise, they're the only team that haven't been relegated from the top flight of football ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you been relegated?
Yeah, we got relegated. So, you know, he has done an amazing thing. But on the other side of that coin is the fact that human beings, you demand... You strive for improvement. You strive for change, positive change.
Yeah.
It's normal, natural human thing to want things to get better. You study so that you can get a better job. You work hard so you can learn skills, and then you move into another job. I would say that.
I mean, I don't think it's a given, right, that people want change. I actually think there's a lot of people that are conservative, small c, and don't want change. They want things to remain the way they are.
But you know what I mean? I think their own personal goal.
Pardon?
Their own personal goals. Like,
do you think? I think a lot of people. I mean, this is why the elite in society kind of, or why a lot of times things stay the same they are, is because there's a lot of people that are motivated by things being
right at the top,
maintaining
at top.
Well, even actually, because the top's relative, isn't it? So a lot of people that might be actually near the bottom of the system, but have got a pension in so many years' time, or that are happy with their 30 grand because it allows them to have their 2 weeks in Benidorm every year or whatever. So I don't think it's just the top, but there's a lot of people that are actually don't want things to change. But
I wonder. All right, okay, but it's my belief generally from the people I've witnessed that generally there is some level of ambition in most people, and if that's true, let's take for my argument's sake that it is.
Yeah, okay.
That actually wanting that just remaining the same is not enough, and that and just having a status quo isn't enough for everybody, and that change in some degree is all that's been necessary, all that's necessary.
Yeah.
Whether that you drop out of the top 4,
yeah, it's
just having something that changes, so that there is a view that one day we might reach the goals, because currently, in the eyes of the protesters, they're never going to reach the levels at which they were promised when they were forced to move from Highbury to the Emirates. So I can understand both of those things, and I flip between understanding and accepting both of them.
Yeah.
So I was told something about the protests by someone.
What were you told? Well, the protests, the Wenger out protest.
Yeah, that I was there, and I should say, when I say this, I was told it in good faith, and I was told this this isn't my opinion as a Spurs fan, and I'm not trying to rile things up or create stories that aren't there.
Yeah.
But
and for anyone that doesn't know you, that's not what you're about anyway.
Of course, yeah.
You might do the odd thing with tongue in cheek at times, but
I like winding Arsenal fans up, and I generally don't like the club. But
but when you're on the long ball street, you're just being...
I try.
Of course.
But this is just something I was told, and there were the Arsenal protests as they walked through, were singing songs to other Arsenal fans who weren't a part of it, chastising them, saying, "Why, we're more Arsenal than you. Are you Tottenham in disguise?" Singing that kind of stuff.
Really?
And if true, and that's a big if, because again, second-hand knowledge. Some people have agendas. I'm just passing this on because it's pertinent. right? If that's true, then you can understand while that might rile some up. And I had a similar situation at Tottenham where we had this 1882 movement, and there were some elements of 1882 was singing at other fans saying, why aren't you singing, kind of thing, and it creates division, it creates the ill feeling, and the actual purpose of a protest is lost because it becomes about division.
But in that, I mean, look, that might have happened. It probably did. But you also don't know if that was in a response to something else.
Of course, yeah.
So one man might look at that and go, oh, they're singing this. But actually, there might be people going, what are you fucking doing? You know what I mean? They might have gone, you're embarrassing, you're not fans. So that might have been a response.
Very true.
So,
that's true, yeah.
But I think that look, it's tough. I've been at, and I think we should get onto the Arsenal Fan TV element of it.
Yep.
So I've been at, over the years, I've seen lots of protests. I've seen us protest. I've had arguments with Huddersfield fans when I felt that a manager should go, or that, and you get it all the time.
Yeah.
I remember like Lee Clark, for example, and this is why it shows it's about perspective. We had a 40-odd game unbeaten run. However, in the middle of that 40-odd games unbeaten run, we played in the playoffs and we lost to Peterborough 3-0. Which was a horrible day.
Yeah.
But the Football League doesn't count the playoff final as being a part of your league run.
Right.
So they were going, oh God, Huddersfield got this. And then we started the next season, we're still unbeaten. So we had this unbeaten run, but in the middle of it, we'd lost this fucking game, right? Where we played Peterborough, and Jordan Rhodes, who scores goals for fun, especially in the second division, he was on the bench. And also, this was kind of partly what was the problem with Lee Clark.
I'm so sorry. So sorry.
I can't wait to see the face. I'd have gone that way. But and this was a problem with Lee Clark. He was quite a negative manager, and in that 40-odd games, we'd left too many points on the field. In that we were winning 2-0 with 10 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go, and the team would start to panic. You could see him panicking, and we'd end up drawing, or we'd be 1-0 up and we'd end up drawing. So out of all those games, we should have won the fucking league, let alone got to the playoff final. And I personally felt that he should have gone, right? I didn't think that he was right. And a lot of Huddersfield fans felt the same way. And even when he did then go, in February the next season, people like Stan Collymore, people in the media that would look at the league table and go, well, Huddersfield are fourth and they've had this big 40-odd match unbeaten run. This is football gone mad. And I was like, well, what are you fucking talking about? Because you don't know. You don't know what we've been through, and that most Huddersfield fans want him out, and this has been a battle. But at that point in time, you had people that were passionately saying he should stay, look at this run, and you had people that were passionately saying he should go. So this isn't just an Arsenal situation. This is what happens in football. And I've been to places like Pompey and places where there's struggles and there's people that are protesting. People are passionate about their football. A lot of times people are drunk at the football.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, especially in and around the match, you feel tension. Afterwards, you might be frustrated because, like we've spoke about before, the game's very fluid. It builds up momentum. You can be, like Adam was saying, 1 minute you're about to score and get promoted. The next minute, who was the team again? Doncaster have gone down the field and scored, and they're in the playoffs, and Doncaster go up. And how you feel right after that is emotional, but you're still in the stadium. You're still coming out of the stadium.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to other fans and people have got these ridiculous opinions and present them in a way that you don't like, people are frustrated. And that's why I've seen a bunch of fights at the football. Yeah. I've seen Huddersfield fans fighting with each other at York because a firework went on the pitch. I've seen us fighting at Fulham when we dropped out of the playoff positions on the last game of the season. It happens, right?
Yeah.
Now, at Arsenal, I think because they've had this thing for so goddamn long, right, and because they're so in the spotlight, because it's Arsenal, no one gives a fuck about Huddersfield in the media. We give a fuck, but nobody else does. So these things largely go unreported. But because it's Arsenal, and we've got a few things that make this situation unique, right? It's the most online social media club. Yeah. Because it's a London audience. London gets 4G before everyone else. London's more evolved in terms of social
a very
media.
Young average age inside the stadium as well.
Very young,
much younger than most other teams.
Yeah, they were also a team that most people. It's a very London media team. I find Arsenal to be. That's from my own experiences of working in media and meeting people. But also they had the Invincibles. So a lot of these people that are now 20, whatever, 25, they'll have grown up thinking, fucking hell, this is great, we win everything.
Yeah.
we get undefeated all the time.
Yeah.
Look at Henry, Bergkamp, all these legends, right? So they've you've got a group of people that have pretty much been spoiled in that they've had a very unrealistic expectation of what supporting a football team is like, right? So, but what you've also got is that social media and modern football and the way that little moments are amplified, so the way that someone can have a rant, and 10 years ago, 20 years ago, people would have these rants at football and they went nowhere.
Yeah.
Because people didn't all have their camera phones going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a few unique things going on. A, they've not dealt with the situation well, so there's been in out for a while. B, a team that's really used to success that a lot of people can't understand why they're not winning, and they think they should be, even though, as you know, finishing fourth every time is good. And then you've got this social media climate that ultimately means that there's a lot of friction going on. There's the old school football, traditional, the loyalty, the things that we really like in football. That's kind of coming into a clash with people that don't understand social media. They think that if you're speaking negatively and critical and it's getting out into the ether, that's actually going to make people that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
So you can see that there's a lot of friction going on here, and unfortunately, because Arsenal Fan TV is a platform and a very modern platform, there's some fans that are gonna see them as being the problem, and it's going to see them as being because it's a platform for people to have their opinions that are going to react against that.
I think you're right in terms of how fans end up whenever there's a problem at your football club. If Arsenal win the league, what happened around Arsenal Fan TV at the weekend would simply not have happened. No. People aren't interested. I think there is two issues. Every issue is kind of magnified by the form of the team, and I think Arsenal have the role to play here as well, the football club, because Robbie and Arsenal Fan TV, they've been doing what they've always done for many years, and nothing's changed other than that pretty much this season they blew up in a big way. Their numbers suddenly became very. The whole football fraternity became aware of what they were doing. And add that to the quite toxic atmosphere inside the Emirates at the moment. There was fights inside the stadium that had nothing.
Exactly.
We say fights. It was
the
most pathetic
fight.
I saw
your tweet. No, but there were skirmishes going on because people are frustrated, and you've got that friction.
But what I'm saying is the club could do a lot by declaring Wenger's position here.
Well, I had a couple of conversations with. So I spoke to Robbie last night and had a good long chat with him, and I spoke to Righty actually yesterday morning and had a long chat with him about it, and I think he feels that the club he's kind of sitting
got a role of responsibility.
It's sitting in the ether a little bit rather than okay, we're going this way or we're going that way, so they could deal with it, and I think people would then just accept it a bit and move on. But so
was that the feeling of both of them?
I think it was probably the feeling, but I don't want to speak on their behalf.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But it was because they've both got channels and mouthpieces and what they put out there is their business. But I think that's an obvious thing.
This is going beyond football now. Really, I think this is about there is a lot of anger and a lot of dividing opinion, and the club have a responsibility to react. And I think actually Wenger's position is becoming untenable. I really do. I think he's got a position now where he's got to go.
Do you know what? So personally, if I was Arsene Wenger, and obviously I can only say this with a certain amount of visibility. I don't know what his contractual position is. I don't know if he's sitting there going, waiting for the payoff. We don't know we don't know what we don't know about why things aren't getting done. So it's always, we've got to say that, right? But if I was him, because I don't ever like to be in a place where I'm not wanted. So if I was, staying at someone's house or something like that, and I was pissing them off, you know what I mean? That'd make me feel uncomfortable. Yeah. I wouldn't ever want to feel like I was overbearing, on.
Just not welcome. And being around. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I would rather. It's cool. I've got other places I can go, and I think that if I was Arsene Wenger, and I was sitting there and the banners and all this stuff's going on, I'd be like, you know what? Like, this is see you later. Yeah. Judge me on what I've done here and judge me in time rather than just how you're feeling now. And I would walk, because I have a slight feeling that for Arsenal it's going to get worse before it gets better again.
Yeah, I think that's probably the sentiment of a lot of what this Wenger out brigade are about. We're okay if it gets worse, but it's got to get better eventually. I think also the problem with Arsenal Fan TV is that it's been associated with Wenger out. I know Robbie's done his best to maintain a neutral position, and personally he has, but the fact is the most vocal element of Arsenal Fan TV are staunchly Wenger out. And so because of that, the residual fallout.
But it's not, I mean, that's the thing though, it's not Robbie's duty, I don't think, to report 50-50 and to go, this is what, it's a balanced agenda.
No.
Because you've just got to give people the opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
Now, he's obviously got his people that he's mates with, that he relies on, that, that have made a habit of turning up and doing the interviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that their opinions are starting to get increasingly Wenger out.
Yeah.
So he can't then go, well, I'm not going to put you on because I want to have people on that are going Wenger in.
No.
Because there's going to be a point where maybe 95% of the fan base would say Wenger out or Wenger in. So you've got to reflect what people are thinking. And that's the thing. Arsenal Fan TV, it's a platform. It's a platform for fans to have their opinion.
Yeah.
Much like the comments in like the questions or the letters page would be in a newspaper years ago, much like on a speech radio station, the call-in shows would be. It's a platform for people to say what they think, just like Twitter is. And when I look at Twitter and when I look at anything like that, I see that there's loads and loads of people that have got very passionate opinions. I see that there's on Twitter, people are getting into arguments on comments on all kinds of websites or YouTube videos. People are getting into arguments about it because people feel passionate about it. That's not Robbie's fault. Robbie's just a platform.
I don't go on Twitter during match days when Spurs are playing. I can't use Twitter because it's infuriating. It spoils my experience going to Tottenham. Unless we use the Fighting Cock, which we follow 9 people.
Right.
Just mainly for the purpose of that, we don't want to
get into that shit. Because people fucking get upset. It's like down at the Mac, the Huddersfield website I go on. I go in touch I go on that to see what people think, the odd interaction. But ultimately, there's a bunch of people, like anywhere in life, that spend an inordinate amount of time getting into arguments with people and just being quite into that and like really getting fuel from that. And it's like, it becomes all unfulfilling.
I'm not asking you this, right? This isn't me asking you a question, but if you can answer it, that'd be good. There's probably a sizable section of the Arsenal support who, although the option to go on Arsenal Fan TV is there for them, they wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
And they don't like it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a difficult problem to overcome, because in my situation, when I've had people critical of 1882 on the Fighting Cock, I've managed to get them onto the pod and talk about it, and then you realise that ultimately probably we all want the same thing.
Yeah.
But with Arsenal Fan TV being so huge now that anyone who goes on there has opened himself up to an absolutely gigantic audience.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I just wonder how. I think that's a part of the problem. I think part of the issue that Robbie can't solve. He just can't solve it. Is that there are massive sections of Arsenal Fan TV who wouldn't come on, and then within that section is people that would be critical.
Is that a question you said?
No, it's just a statement.
Okay.
Really. I wasn't expecting you to answer it.
Oh right.
Yeah.
How can you?
It's just a fact, and that's.
Can you answer a statement?
Well, I think. You can have a comment on the statement.
Okay.
I
think that one of the big things at Pro here is is undoubtedly old football. So people that anti-modern football and modern football. It's that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing this all over society. People don't understand the internet. A load of people don't understand the internet. A lot of people don't understand social media. You can see. and I think that people need to think about what they're doing on social media. You see a lot of people that sit there, and you've got organisations that are known to at times do bad things, right? And that I wouldn't share certain organisations' content because I kind of know who they are, I know what their agenda is, and I know that this puppy video, they don't really give a shit about puppies. What they're trying to do is they're wanting likes, they're wanting people to kind of join their things, so then that's an audience that they can sell, that they can monetize, or that they can get to follow their fake news or their political agendas, right? Yeah. And I think that sometimes people don't think about that. They just, in that moment. Yeah. And I think that when it comes to football content, I think you've got a little bit of that. Is it people that don't really understand it? Because when Robbie does a match day, there's a whole bunch of stuff that he does speak to, I think, everybody. I do think that you get different people's opinions on there. However, there's a few people stuff that goes viral because they're saying things that are they speak in a certain way. They maybe make a better point or something like that. And maybe that's why, and if that's the one out of the 50 videos that he does, if it's that one that goes viral, and then an Arsenal fan sees that in other context, maybe he'll look at that and go, why are you putting this stuff on? It's embarrassing for the team. Yeah. Maybe there's a little bit of that. I don't know. I think I had another point to make there, but I've forgotten what it is.
It's such a nuanced and difficult debate to have and discussion to have, but
it is really difficult.
I thought
it is.
We had to. We have to talk about it.
But it's about perspective as well, because in fact, go on, let's just move on. But any Arsenal fans, that's just kind of how I see it as a neutral, and how we see it. Yeah. There's we understand it's a stressful time, and the thing that you love and you enjoy going, you want your team to win, you invest a lot of time and effort in that. Yeah. And it's horrible when it's going like this at your club, and where things aren't going well, and there's divisions and people are arguing, and it's obviously just a very tense experience for them. So, I've got really good friends of mine that are Arsenal fans, really good friends of mine that are Arsenal legends, and it's like Ian Wright, for crying out loud, the podcast we did with him, because he's come out and given his opinions on the club, and he's had fucking trolls that have ultimately at times put him off Twitter, and it's like, that's not right. People need to just fucking relax a little bit and realise that people can have different views, and just because they do, so what? We're in a world where actually it's good to have different opinions, and people have got a right to their opinions. And I think that maybe just when you see what happened to Righty, and you see what happened to the other day where people are rushing and going off and getting firms together or whatever it was, it's just like, let's not lose perspective on it,
Yeah.
It's tough.
I think it'd be a nice time kind of segue into a question we had from Chinmay K. He says, when and why was Ball Street Network created? And why do you think we've done the views thing last week about, it's difficult, but why?
It's quite a fucking heavy. I'm quite tired of that.
I thought it was a good opportunity.
It was, but in fact, okay, it probably is. Go on, Flav. What are you saying? Ball Street Network.
Why? Yeah. Why did you create it? Why was it created? There's quite a lot in it. Should we do it next week?
No, I mean, okay, let's just do it. But Adam's laughing at us now. And by the way, Adam, just to say, and fuck it, I was saying last week, and he's kind of rubbing my trainers and that. Look, he's starting to dress like me.
What's he done now?
He's all in black.
Plain black t-shirt.
He's kind of like exactly.
It's quite similar.
He's very similar.
It is similar. Yeah. I notice he wears the Reebok trainers less since you dug him out for copying.
But he's got a few colourways though, hasn't he now?
Yeah.
He's irritating me a bit, exactly. He's really irritating me. I know. We might have to review him, do his performance review, and
you can't. Do you reckon? You've not seen our Twitter analytics?
I see some bad spellings on there.
Oh.
And also, he's a bit like a sniper. Like Adam was really sound for the first while, wasn't he? Yeah. He comes into work, he's all quiet. Yeah. And what I've noticed is that he's like a sniper, laying in the grass. You don't realise he's there, and all of a sudden the grass moves, and it's like sort of Call of Duty. Them people that are really skilled.
Why?
I don't know why.
Just for being like snide remarks.
It's not snide in a bad way. It's just like he's he's come into an organisation,
Spiteful.
he's laid low, and you think that he's just like, he's a cool guy,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden when you're reeling
Yeah.
and your team's lost or something, he just just like.
But he does it in a way that he's like, doesn't sound like you're being dug out, but you're left feeling a little bit hollow, but you're not sure why.
Yes.
It's very
It's
clever.
like Jack Reeve as well, who's like, I love Jack.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of see him as a bit of, lower league brothers in arms.
No, you've always been quite nice to each other, talked about football, there's never been any acrimony at all.
And then all of a sudden...
we're taking your manager and your director of football. I was like, Joe, whoa, Jack, where'd that come from?
All of a sudden, I'm just like asleep at night, and I just kind of wake up like that, and he just puts a pillow over my head. And, you know what I mean? Or I wake up tied up, and he's got Scrappy under his arm, and he just jumps out of the window and slides down. So like, what's the matter with that?
Let us know in the comments below. Actually, have you had any of your mates that turn into something else?
Because Adam is turning.
He's turning.
He is. I don't like what he's becoming.
Well, it's Craig has too. Chelsea have had a bit of success, and he's turned into an absolutely, at times, unbearable human being to work with. He's not even being.
He's unapologetic.
He's just got this weird grin on his face.
Yeah, he's unashamedly horrible at times, is Craig.
Yeah.
And people want to see him on here, but he won't come on, will he?
Not. We did one podcast and we just filmed the back of his head.
Yeah.
Adam, how did Brentford get on at the weekend?
1-2-0 against Bristol City.
What's going on down there?
What do you mean?
The little buzzy bees, they're coming up, aren't they?
We can still get players.
Do you think you're gonna?
No.
No, you're definitely not.
Imagine a Brentford.
Imagine if we slipped
Huddersfield.
so bad and they just went on a tear and they replaced us. Imagine the sniper then, how much you'd love that.
One of my the sniper.
I'd hate that.
One of my favourite things is when you'd come up just next to him when you were about to play each other, and he'd notice that you were there, and he'd look at you and go, "We're gonna smash you."
I know. He was so
confident.
so
Didn't happen.
fortunate. But no, all joking about it, we absolutely love Adam. So yeah, you said when and why was the Ball Street Network created? Why do you think the channel gets less views than it deserves?
Well, we did the views things last week. We discussed that at length. Yeah, we talked about the type of content we put and what we don't want to do and what we did want to do in the floating head. So we don't want to do that again.
Right.
But just briefly.
I know it's a tough one. So I think that we started this. Must have been 2011. Stu and I both left our jobs. I left TalkSport in order to set this up.
Yeah.
But we had to consult and do work and sell our wares in order to fund the investigation down this path. And
sorry, when you were going down it, did you have no idea? You had an idea, but was you 100% sure that it was going to work, or was you kind of like a leap of faith? How did it feel?
It was more about the values that we had.
Yeah.
So I worked at TalkSport and I felt massively that, and I'd worked at Sky before, that they weren't actually catering to the fans that they as they should. And that they had the resources, they had the rights, they had the access to actually provide great coverage for all fans of all teams, but they didn't. They just focused on the top few teams, and that's all that they kind of cared about. And what we tried to do is, because as a Huddersfield fan, it's Stu as a Rangers fan, what we wanted to do is we wanted to do something that looked where all leagues were ultimately treated like Premier Leagues. So we kind of said we're Ball Street, where every league is a Premier League, because it's the most important thing to you, and you should have a place where you can discuss it. There should be insight beyond fact. So that's kind of why what we tried to set up. But ultimately, there was you need money to be making content. You need a lot of things, and what we never really got to is creating a consumer-facing channel. What we'd have to do is we have to do project work. So we would go and make monies creating video for brands, pulling together social media campaigns for brands, providing strategy for brands. And what we would do is we'd raise money over here in order to then invest in creating and employing people to actually start to try and build something, or the foundations for what we want to create, which is a digital monument.
But right from the start, that was with like Meeting Red Men TV and Jack Reeve and stuff. So you kind of started down that path.
We set up a YouTube channel. And we got to know a community, and we turned that community into a network and professionalized it. And we want to turn that network into a a media company that's made or by passionate fans, rather than a media company that's kind of made by rich people and funded by rich people in order to try and appeal to and cajole and convince fans to come and watch our puppies or our cats or our floating heads videos. So that's what we're kind of trying to do. And it's just like when you asked that, I just looked, and maybe we can put it up on here. There was a little Tumblr that we set up at first, and there was our first post. And in fact, you read it, because I just copied and pasted it onto there for you. You read it though, just to give me a
Okay. So they've built a brand, sold naming rights and corporate packages, but no one in football got rich on their own. The Fat Cats would be nowhere without your season ticket money, the shirt on your back, or the Sky subscription. Sure, the game needs money. It even needs brands, but part of the game is to be a good sport and look after the game handed down to us by our fathers. Ask yourself, are they playing fair? I remember reading that.
Yeah, so we're still true to that game. Our entire body of work, reflects that, and I guess that right at the start, and there's also a couple of videos you'll see with Righty straight away, where we're talking about it, and we're actually saying, look, we're not in a position to sit here and tell you about every your teams. Righty would sit here and say, I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? He's like, what we want is we want to try and create a platform for actually you to come on and be the experts, because you're passionate and you understand the nuances of your team and what your club's going
like what
from.
you were saying about Collingwood earlier, and the people are saying they didn't understand the league cup, because the only thing they have to go on is the unbeaten run and the league position.
Exactly.
They don't understand the nuances of...
Exactly. And that's really what has been... what we've lived for from the start. That was in us, and it's why I was frustrated at TalkSport, and I was earning lots of money there, and I was going to World Cup finals and stuff like that, and I could have ultimately stayed in that, but I left that in order to do something that I believe. Because if you were to think about this as a football metaphor, this isn't this is my life, right? This isn't training. This isn't the pre-match warm-up. This is the fucking game, And I'm trying to win the game. And I want to, much like all of you guys that have actually sat there and thought, you know what, I'm sitting here and there's something that's not right with this world. There's something not right with this at the moment. And actually there's something I believe in, and I want to organise around it, and I want to actually start to address it. I want to try and make some changes that I believe in, that I think is going to make things better for everybody else. And that's what we've kind of set out to do. I hope we get there. I hope that we're able to create this platform, this media company that is a digital monument that actually allows us to actually hand the game down to the next generation in a better state. Because right now, it's ruled by the rich people. It caters towards the top few clubs. It caters towards their needs, and it's an elite where there's loads of people that are taking money out of football, and actually it's fans that are paying all the money. So we speak about there being a table, and I've mentioned this before. Yeah. If there's a table of football, fans have paid for the food on it. Fans have bought all the drinks. Fans have paid for the nice restaurant. Fans are actually, if they're in there, they're fucking the waiters that are going and getting drinks for the Fat Cats, who are eating caviar, smoking cigars, pouring Cristal on the floor. Fans don't have a seat at that table. They don't have a say in what happens. And that's something that in this day and age, with the internet, with the fact that you can organise around values and what you think rather than your location, we have an opportunity to change it. We have an opportunity to change the game for the good, and that's what we're trying to be a part of that solution. But it's difficult.
In a really realistic term, then you're saying perhaps brands would have gone to the Premier League, but now maybe they will work with us or elsewhere as well, and that could then be potentially put down to Jack Reeve or whoever it might be. Norwich. Okay.
Absolutely.
In the most basic.
Like thing. This deal that we've done with Ladbrokes, there's a deal that goes across all the fan channels, which allows us to reinvest, to get better equipment, to do more stuff, to find ways to do things quicker. And look, we can't do it alone. Not even with Robbie, with Paul, with all these guys. We need more people to get involved. I think that there's people that have got in touch saying, I'm a Dunfermline fan and I want to start a channel so I can be a part of this network. And that's what I'm truly excited about is I think we've built some really nice foundations. We've never had the time, we've never had the money, we've never had the infrastructure to do everything that we want to do. We've never been able to do big collabs. to get loads of attention, like Copper did when they got KSI to do loads of stuff, like TFR did, which is owned by Fremantle, when they were getting True Geordie and Cheeky Sport and paying them a load of cash to come and bring their audience over here. We've never been in a position to really do that. So as we start to deals with Ladbrokes, some of the things that we're looking to do in this year will allow us to start to tell that story, to join the dots, and to tell more fans and give more fans a role in this thing.
How tired are you now?
I'm getting tired. I'm getting tired, man.
All right, let's move on. But that was good and interesting.
But some of this stuff
Yeah.
is going to be told via the channel Matt World, which might change the name on it. So link to that, join that, because there's a whole history and there's a whole things that we've done that people aren't really aware of. People are asking about one more game and stuff like that. There's tons of cool stuff that we've done. We've just not been the best at PRing ourselves, really.
Absolutely.
But there's real strong, deep roots, and we stand by everything that we've done to date and how it aligns with the values I'm talking about today.
I've got a question for you.
Go on. Is it a question or a statement?
No, it's a question.
Okay.
Do you reckon Adam pours Cristal out on the floor on a Saturday night?
Definitely.
Just don't even want this.
But it don't even want this. But it's not Cristal, it's Foster's. And
Pouring Fosters.
I know that from we're going to the Brentford game, and him and his mates love a Foster's.
You don't mind the Carling either, do you?
I enjoy Carling.
You don't know what the big deal is about Carling.
Why does everyone hate Carling? I prefer Carling to Foster's.
I don't think everybody hates Carling. I just think it's an acquired taste, like in the same way Marmite is.
I think it's the nicest out of all the shit beers. Like Foster's, Carlsberg, Carling's better.
I mean, we might want to do work with these guys.
That's right.
Let's.
It's fine. Honesty is a good thing.
I don't think. I was just saying it's acquired taste rather than shit beers. I mean, that's unfair, Adam.
Okay, so from there,
any chance you could discuss? This is from Sham Adams. Any chance you could discuss about Rangers and Celtics joining the Premier League theory? This comes off the back of Brendan Rodgers saying that Celtic would finish in the top 6 in the Premier League. Ad, where would Celtic finish in the Premier League?
At first, I'd say lower half, possibly relegation, but after a while, maybe a decade, I don't see why they couldn't challenge top 6.
What, you reckon even now? I mean, they could, because they're a huge football club, eventually a challenge. You think their current team could be face relegation?
Yeah. Scott Sinclair couldn't get a game at
Yeah.
West Brom.
I think he's hit the nail bang on, and this is something that because Stu's a Rangers fan, something that I've always thought I'd love to see happen. I know tradition stuff, but I'd love to see it happen.
Yeah.
They're too big for Scotland. That league is ridiculous.
But you're destroying the.
I know, but they destroyed it themselves when they penalised Rangers and got them sent down to the bottom league.
Yeah, I suppose.
Because again, it's like, so okay, had the club been involved in some financial irregularities? Yes, as Barca have, as Man City have, as a load of teams have, right? Yeah. Was that the fault of the fans? No. It was some fucking guy that's come in and done that. And this is the thing about football. What's the thing that regulates who's in charge of the clubs? Because the fans are the ones that remain. The managers, the owners, that's a temporary thing. The fans remain. And the fans are penalised for the acts of some guys coming in that the SFA have ultimately approved that.
But by the same sentiment, the fans will be of Motherwell, of Aberdeen, Queen of the South, Queen's Park. They'll suffer for Rangers and Celtic not being able to bring the cash in to the league.
And that's exactly what happened, because you've got a league that's famous around the world for that rivalry, for the old firm, and then they sent Rangers down to the bottom league, which was then spent a few years while Celtic are just still great. I mean, Kieran upstairs, right? Yeah. Big Celtic fan, really cool guy. Saw him yesterday. He's like, great day yesterday. We won the league. Like 8 games to go. I'm like, it's like going outside and, you know what I mean, taking candy from babies and then sitting there going, see that Kit Kat I just got. Like, what?
I can get another 5 of them.
Yeah, it's whenever. Like, it's boring.
I agree. I understand that it is boring and it is rubbish. And the only game I ever watched in Scotland is the Old Firm. That said, I don't want them in English football. I don't want them here. And if they want to come in, then they start at the bottom.
That would be good. I think that would be the very cool thing to do.
Yeah, and when I say the bottom, I don't mean League Two. I mean the bottom of the pyramid.
Right.
Sunday League.
All right. So there's a bit of a joke in this, but let's just play it through as if they were like the guys asked that they're in the Premier League or something like that. Right. How would they do?
Yeah.
Because they have the infrastructure. They have the draw power.
Yeah.
What they don't have is they don't have the huge TV rights that Premier League kind of clubs have.
Yep.
So if they got into the Premier League and they were getting that kind of cash, and there's a load of players from around the world because of the history. I think that would love to play there. So I think they'd be able to attract amazing players.
Undoubtedly.
And I think that it would be very exciting. I mean, look at the players that have played there and what they've done, like the Gaza, the Laudrup years, the like Henrik Larsson and God man, they're amazing clubs, both of them.
No, look, they would both within very quickly. They would very, very quickly be able to cope with the Premier League if they could stay in it.
Yeah. But even if they went down and the infrastructure's there, that you'd have to think that they'd have the potential to get up there. But at the start, I'm not being funny, but I think that on our day, I Huddersfield would give Celtic a game.
Yeah.
We would do.
Agree, yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah. Top six is crazy talk, but
yeah.
I thought lower mid-table, lower half. Relegation, I didn't think.
It's like, did Brendan Rodgers? Who did he manage? He managed Liverpool. Where did he fix with them? He did well one year.
Well, yeah, he nearly won them the league, but then he had the anomaly of having Suarez, who was undoubtedly world top bracket player.
Yeah.
But he's well respected. He's done well at Swansea. He did well at Liverpool.
Where did he go afterwards again? He went somewhere after Liverpool. Where did he go?
No, sorry.
Did he not? Did he Celtic?
So it was his next job. So yeah, fair enough. Marching on together, he says, putting all the feelings and rivalries aside, would you like it if the so-called older great clubs like Leeds, Forest, Wednesday were back at the top? It's nice to see tin pot clubs like Bournemouth and Burnley build properly and sustainably and rightly earn their right in the Premier League.
This is my mate marching on together.
Yeah, I don't think. You answer yours.
But I mean, look. So first of all, older great clubs like Leeds, Villa, Forest, Wednesday. That's in his life.
Yeah.
What about Huddersfield Town, who in the 1920s to 30s won the Football League 3 times in a row?
Yeah.
And
that's too old.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. It's about perspective, isn't it? So I'd like to see. I think it's a difficult one to ask because based on how old you are, it's a difficult question.
He's just saying it because that's what he wants.
Yeah, that's what he wants.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's tough, isn't it? I kind of like it sometimes when teams go down and
never come back.
Yeah, and then they come back. I just like it when it's clubs that have got football tradition. Right, so I see Bournemouth as a team that's got some good football tradition. They've had, some really good players have kind of come through there. Your Redknaps, your Darren Andertons. They've always liked to play football the right way down there, and they've always been a football town. Where I don't like it is when it's Wigan, who was a rugby town and who never cared. And I remember going to Springfield Park or whatever it was back in the day. It was a shocking little ground. We had more fans than they there. It was a grass banking behind the goal. And you scored, you got excited, and you'd fall over and slip down if it was a bit wet. That's what it was like.
That's proper football.
And then they get into the Premier League and it's the JJB Stadium, and then they're kind of like better than you, and you're just like, fuck, this is wrong. You know what I mean? And even Hull for me is although they do have a history of football, still a rugby town, a Hull KR. So I like it when it's a football town. And you're right, Forest, Wednesday, Leeds, Villa do have some great traditions, but go down, lose some games, rebuild, get rid of the glory hunters and come up with a really strong, passionate fan base and get there on your merit.
Honestly, I don't care if Leeds, Villa or Forest ever come back into the Premier League. Don't care. I don't care. I don't like. I'm a Tottenham fan more than I am a football fan.
Yeah.
And if Burnley or Bournemouth deserve their chance in the Premier League, then the fact is you're talking about history, but you're talking about a long time ago. Leeds haven't done anything for years. Villa did. They've just kind of trod water. Forest, they won the They won the European Cup.
Yeah, they've been up and down a bit, haven't they, Forest?
They haven't even been in the Premier League
for a while.
God knows how long.
I do remember, and I've said this before, and I really enjoy it. I remember going to Forest.
15 years maybe?
Is it that long?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I remember going to Forest when they'd been relegated, and I remember going there. It was maybe the first game of the season, and I remember we were singing because they'd got relegated, and it was the first game of the season. We were singing, and I might have said this before, but we were singing "Crying on the Telly."
Yeah.
We saw you crying on the telly,
Yeah.
like that, and we were kind of all pleased with ourselves and the odd chuckle. And then they came back with, which was very clever. They came back with "Being on the telly." You've never been on the telly.
Yeah, that is very good.
Damn you!
You win.
Yeah,
you win. It's one of the big clubs to go down and never come back. I'd love to see Arsenal go down and never come back.
By the way, just to say again, fucking Leeds, they're going to beat us in the playoff final. I know it. He knows it. He knows it. I know it. The football gods know it.
Yeah.
I just thought that Brentford pippers.
We've got them tonight. Leeds.
Have you?
At home, yeah.
Fuck.
Good game.
Wish you hadn't said all that.
Have you got? I don't want to get to that actually. I don't want to be there.
Oh, you're thinking.
I was thinking of going and
just to kind of.
I don't want to go there. It'll be you'll hear a bit of "Follow Leeds away, follow Leeds away." But yeah, good luck, Ad. Kill him. Do it.
Okay, last question, unless you've got any more. Yasin Dar, he says, what was your take on the introduction of video technology this week, and how will it influence the future of football? So this was it international.
Do you know about this, Adam?
What, video technology?
Yeah.
What's happened?
I know it was trialled in a game between France and Spain.
Yeah. Right.
I'm just going to talk about it.
All right.
That's what we can do.
Here he comes. Here he comes.
Check out his clothes and see who he looks like.
Oh, that didn't just turn off, did it? Everything all right? We'll be really careful about that switch.
Yeah, I think it's all.
Is it?
No, we're all good.
Oh my god.
Ads.
Yeah.
Hello, ladies. So, so the Liverpool, Spain, France game saw Griezmann's goal get ruled offside.
Mm-hmm.
A whole a minute later, a minute after he'd scored his goal, the fans had celebrated wildly. They were really happy. All the players had celebrated. Then a minute later, it's ruled out.
Yeah.
So on one level, you think that's fair, that's fine, that's the right decision. But on a second, like if you apply that across the board to all football matches, imagine Brentford playing QPR, right, and you've scored, and you don't know whether to celebrate
properly
for a minute to know whether or not you go, and how wild is that celebration going to be a minute after the goal's scored? And ultimately, football is about, I think, it's about escapism. You remove that escapism, you remove the minute where it actually becomes about facts and about making the game as accurate as possible. You're removing the fun out of the game. Like, what would be it's just less fun.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I would say my favourite part of going to football is goal celebration.
Yeah,
like that's pretty much why I go. It's just going mental when you scored a big goal.
It's only the only thing.
So yeah, to have that taken away would be.
Can you see the argument?
There must be some way they can make it rapid with all the technology they have, just really quick. Like the rest with their watches when the ball goes over the line. Obviously, it won't be as quick as that. But
a ball. Do you want to get a chair? Yeah.
Do you want to?
Yeah. Okay.
Just trying to not turn it all off again.
A ball can get. Is it on the wire bed?
It should be.
Yeah. A ball can cross the line. It's a definitive moment, isn't it? In a game, the ball crossed the line. A thing goes off in the alarm, and you're away, and you know. But with a goal, there's so many different factors. You don't know whether or not.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's just like it's just crazy that in this day and age, it's not been put in there quicker. You still see so many things where it's wrong. It's a bad decision. There's so much on the line. There's so much at stake. I kind of feel that we should be trying to get minimise the amount of errors.
It took a whole minute after the goal was scored. So the fans had celebrated, the players had wheeled away, and then a minute later, it's not a goal.
Yeah.
What happens when Huddersfield are playing Leeds in the playoff finals, right?
Yeah.
And Huddersfield have just scored, and you don't know whether to celebrate or not because you're not sure whether it's a goal.
Yeah.
Doesn't that moment of explosion, that moment of losing yourself, the moment of escapism, which is what football's about. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
What if that's gone?
Well, if it's against Leeds, it's different, obviously, in the playoff final. No, it's seriously, like let's have it right. Like, rather than there's too many things whereby you're sitting there afterwards going, that was wrong, you know, and the injustice. What about that goal? Was it you that scored that goal against Man United, where it was like a long shot and he literally claws it out back at net, and it's kind of...
But I would give that goal. I'd accept that decision, and I do accept it for all the times I've been able to celebrate wildly when we maybe shouldn't have had it, or I don't want the enjoyment of the game.
I don't think
more sanitised.
I don't think it's entirely binary. I don't think it's that or that. I think that there's probably a way of solving it and sorting it out, like most things in life. So I think that you can have technology, you can probably still have your moment, but you know, whether it's a quicker thing or whether you have your moment and then it's called back, you know, and it's like maybe there's some kind of way of. And we're making this up as we go along, right? This isn't me coming and going, here's my proposal that's well thought out. But what if it was a situation where every manager's allowed to have like 2 challenges or something like that per half or something like that, whereby so something could happen, and then if he really thinks that that's something to pull back, then at least like when they're coming to take the kick off, the challenge goes, you've still had your moment, and then you might even get to have 2 moments, because then they press the challenge button, they do the challenge, they review it, and they go, it was a goal, and then you're like, yeah, again. Rather than, and if it wasn't, it's like, well, I've had my moment, it wasn't a goal, let's play on.
The moment would be watered down. You wouldn't celebrate that.
No,
you know,
it'd be less
that
good.
much, because you
but
know
it'd
in
be
the back of
right.
your head,
all right,
so
I don't want.
All right, well then here's another scenario. What if it's the end of the season? You play Arsenal, you've caught Chelsea. You play, who's your last game? Man United.
Our last home game is Man United,
right.
Hull away.
So you play Man United on the penultimate game of your last ever game at White Hart Lane, and you need to win to essentially win the league. And Zlatan does some crazy ass shit.
It's offside.
And it's offside, and they're having their little moment of cheering, and there's no video thing in place, and then all of a sudden you're left there and you lose the league, and actually Arsenal, not Chelsea, come up and finish above you.
This is not fair.
And you're sitting there and they're laughing, going, "Hey, he sent Tottenham's Day." He said, and Robbie from Arsenal Fan TV and DT, they're
this is not fair.
Antagonising you.
You're adding too much.
So would you then like it or not? Or would you go, well, I had a moment earlier in the season?
That's for someone who said this isn't a binary issue. That is quite a binary thing.
Well, I just have to speak in your terms. Though.
Fuck no! I wouldn't like that.
Exactly.
Oh, I don't know. I think I'm right though. I'm not. I'm not.
That's fine. We can disagree. It's
Yeah.
cool. There are a couple more questions actually.
Go on then.
It's just one guy I'd asked, and I've got asked this a couple of times on Twitter as well, because obviously I speak a bit about the Raiders and a Raiders fan, and Eric Bolden had put, Matt, what do you think about the Raiders moving to Vegas in 2019? Will you support them even though they're moving 600 miles away from their old home? And all I would say from that is I'm a fan from here, so it's not really my place to sit here and say, you know, I've been and watched the Raiders a few times. I'd like them to stay in Oakland from a traditional point of view, because that's who it was when I was a kid, before they went to LA, before they then came back to Oakland, and they're leaving again. But Ty, and this was a big reason why, you know, I chose Ty, is that
as the woman,
is that when we were talking and I mentioned like, oh, don't hate me, but I quite like NFL and I'm probably going to watch that at some point. And she went, oh no way, like what team? And I went, Oakland Raiders. She went, oh fuck, I'm a Raiders fan. I was like, yeah, whatever. You're just trying to marry me because you can see that there's potential and I've got great genes. And she went, no. And then went onto Facebook and showed me her like aunt who goes to the Raiders games and is a huge Oakland Raiders fan. I was like, fuck, this is real.
I really do have to.
Yeah, so I was like, shit, and on the basis.
So when are you going to get out there before they move?
Yeah, definitely. But it's kind of an interesting thing because the NFL's massively a huge company, makes loads and loads of money, but the people that pay for the new stadiums, it's underwritten by the fans and by the taxpayers. So Oakland, right, is quite a poor area, and for a long time now, they've been trying to work out a deal in Oakland and get it there. But what Oakland, the town, has been not wanting to do, or is to make the taxpayers pay for a stadium that they would be ultimately then paying off in tax for a long period of time. So this is kind of why I think it would have been nice if they could have got something together whereby they'd have built a new stadium there, because it was the worst stadium in sport. But ultimately, the city of Oakland hasn't wanted to put that on the taxpayers, so it's now the Vegas taxpayers who are going to be paying for this stadium. But it's just ridiculous. In the NFL, they make so much goddamn money, and whenever a move happens, right, for a franchise, the owner of that franchise somehow ends up getting about 50 million as a relocation thing that goes to the owner of the team.
Really?
Very weird, yeah.
Can I ask, will they then fill their stadium easily in Las Vegas?
I think it's an interesting one, because if you're an NFL fan and they don't travel like we do. America's a huge country compared to England, right? So you haven't got 5 football teams within an hour's drive. You go in. You have to go across country. It's huge. So there's not that travelling culture that you get kind of here. There's different time zones in the country, So, but I think with Vegas, it's 2 for the price of 1, isn't it? Because you might go and have a weekend in Vegas. So to go to Vegas and watch the Raiders, I think a lot of away fans will travel. And so I think it's quite interesting. But with these stadium changes, like Oakland Stadium's got a very vociferous, passionate fan base. It's the black hole. They all wear this mad gear. It's known for being one of the toughest and kind of most vocal supports. And it's just one of the things I'm worried about is losing that when it goes to kind of Vegas.
And what will they do? What will the fans do?
I think some will not go, obviously, but some will support the Raiders regardless.
How far is Oakland to Vegas?
I think it's probably maybe about I don't know. I'm gonna guess a 7 to 10 hour drive, that kind of thing, or a flight. Probably the flight's not too bad, but you're talking about going, driving half an hour or an hour or something like that, or even 10 minutes. To see your team, to then actually having to fly and travel, it's going to make a difference for some. So I think the fan base is a little bit divided. But the San Francisco 49ers, they used to have a stadium called Candlestick Park, which is a very cool stadium, and where it was positioned was cool. Like, I think it was kind of pretty much on the Bay Area in like San Francisco Bay, and they closed that and they built a new stadium called the Levi Stadium, and the old atmosphere at Candlestick was quite a thing, and people like Joe Montana and lots of history there, and they're really struggling as a franchise at the moment, and it feels like the whole the fan base is kind of, the atmosphere is gone and it's not really getting recreated. Wow. So I'd be worried about losing that. So mixed feelings, but it's not really my place because it doesn't affect me that much, does it?
No. Fair enough.
That's that, yeah.
Quite conclusive.
It was. And then just Daniel Flowers, great podcast again, lads. Looking forward to long ball all week, which is nice. And I think the comments that we get, it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, especially on this one. I mean,
it makes us feel warm.
While we've got Adam here, I mean, it would be rude not to, wouldn't it?
What?
Birds and that, yeah?
Of course. What's happening, Nat?
So nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
You're not giving anything away.
Yeah, right.
There has been nothing happening, you said.
Yeah. I've had a quiet few weekends.
So what did you say you were going to do for us this weekend?
Go fucking mental. No, joke. I'm going to the Grand National this weekend with 10 other boys.
Oh,
so
wow.
There might be some stories.
Be careful. It gets lively up there.
Yeah, I know.
The Grand National. It is a... It is though. It's like almost like an abundance of stag and hen doos.
Really?
In the same place. Yeah, it's.
Where is it? The Grand National?
It's Aintree.
Liverpool.
Yeah, Aintree's Liverpool. Yeah, but it's. There's loads and loads. You'll have a good time. You will have a good time.
Where are you staying?
So one of my mates has moved to Liverpool, so he's got a house there. So.
What, he's lived there? And is his proper home, or is he like?
No,
flat
it's like. He was a student there and he's carried on now.
Right.
But 15 boys piling in.
Jesus.
It's not like you're going to be able to find a quiet space to romanticise a woman.
No.
If that's such a word.
Jesus. I'm kind of glad that that's
what are you going to do in that
life.
instance? Should that happen?
We'll have to go to theirs.
Birds and that, yeah.
You know, it's birds and that. Yeah, more of that next week. We'll find out
how
Adam performed.
Have you started putting the clip,
Time
the
codes.
description? And do you know what? Some guy was saying as well. Oh yeah, Blythe for me, it's a bit rambly. It's a bit so and so. It's like, look, mate, we are putting the time stamps on there so you can see it. But ultimately, this is a long format. This was a podcast that we started to video. So we ramble, we go on, we don't adequately prepare. This is just a few of us out having a laugh. So if you want that kind of, you need to go
Listen to
somewhere else.
podcasts.
Yeah.
Stop telling the audience to go somewhere else. That's twice.
Is it? Have I done that twice? What was the other one?
You have one. You went. Oh fuck! I can't remember.
No, it's about Arsenal fans.
Yeah.
You said,
I was saying,
mate,
don't. If you,
this ain't for you.
So exactly, this ain't for you. Stop telling our audience to go away.
Don't watch.
Yeah.
No, watch.
All right, that's
Subscribe.
been the Long Ball Street podcast. Once again,
See you at the far post.
see you
Yeah,
at
the far post.
There you go.